these are the authentication and encryption standards which we are using. Other simple methods that we could and we should be using for protecting our wireless infrastructures include station blacklist and whitelist, user isolation, MAC address authentication, web portal authentication, anti-spoofing techniques like DHCP snooping, dynamic ARP inspection or DAI, and IP source card or IPSC. Let's discuss just a couple of them in a little bit more detail. As I mentioned earlier in the lecture, we were supposed to discuss the blacklist and the whitelist, so now we are discussing what a station or a client blacklist and whitelist does. So what happens is that instead of doing an authentication, or just to make sure at the link level or the link association level that whether the client should be allowed to get connected to the access point or not, we simply check whether the client or whether that laptop or whether that mobile phone, it is part of a blacklist or a whitelist. If we have configured, we can configure just one of these lists, either a whitelist or a blacklist, not both. So if the device or a client is part of a whitelist, it will be allowed to establish a connection with the AP. Anyone that is not part of the whitelist will not be allowed, which means that by default all the MAC addresses or all the stations which are not part of the whitelist will not be allowed to connect to the access point or points. Similarly, if you have configured a blacklist, this means that anyone that is a member of the blacklist will not be allowed to connect, and anyone that is not part of the blacklist will be allowed to connect. So we can use whitelists and blacklists to allow or disallow stations from connecting to our devices. Similarly, we can also use MAC authentication. The purpose of MAC authentication is that it is actually part of the 802.1x framework. We could either use 802.1x authentication for authenticating the users with your Radius server. However, in case there is a certain device which does not have a username password and which cannot be authenticated using a username password, for example a printer, if you have a network printer, you cannot have a username password, or a user cannot enter username password while it is trying to connect to the network. So in that case, we can use authentication based on MAC address of the network printer. So the username and the password both are going to be the MAC address of the printer, and this way the printer can get connected to your wireless infrastructure or get authenticated by the Radius server. So we can also configure that your Radius server is going to try to do 802.1x authentication first, and if it does not happen, if the 802.1x authentication is not successful, then it can try to perform the MAC authentication. This is what we call the MAC address bypass authentication, as I just mentioned, that if the 802.1x authentication is not successful and if there is a timeout, we cannot have 802.1x authentication based on EAP, then we are going to perform the MAC authentication. So this is called MAC address bypass authentication, where you try both, first 802.1x authentication based on EAP and then the MAC authentication. The next common authentication method that we use is the web portal authentication. I'm sure all of you all of you would be aware of what portal authentication is. This is generally done in public areas like shopping malls or hotels or any other public airports or stations, where the link level authentication is open, where anybody can get attached or where anybody can establish a connection with the access point. However, they do not get any access to the network resources unless they get themselves authenticated at an authentication portal. So web authentication portals are used for authenticating the users, and that information exchange or that authentication process is apparently a little complicated, but it's very interesting. So we'll look at that process and you'll be able to understand what's happening behind the scenes. So this is what's happening. This is what happens. Here's the client that wants to be part of the network, that wants to connect to the network. This authentication client gets connected with the authentication device, and then it has to be redirected to the portal server. The portal server connects to the client or asks for a username and password. The user enters the username and password, and then the portal server passes on this username and password to the switch or to the access device, which exchanges this username password information within authentication server or a radius server at the back end. This radius server tells this switch or this access device that yes, the username password is correct. This information is passed on to the portal server. The portal server displays the information to the user that your user credentials have been accepted successfully or your username password is correct, and you can now log on to the network. And then the user acknowledges that, and then that user is actually connected to the infrastructure, and it can access the network resources based on the whatever policies we have implemented for this user. For example, if he's a guest user in our network, this policy server is going to make sure that it can only access the resources that are available to the guests. They cannot get access to the file server of our organization. So this is how a portal authentication works in an enterprise or in a public wireless infrastructure. So finally we come to the last part of this wireless LAN security technologies, which is the CAPWAP encryption and user authorization management. This is the portion where we are going to look at the security techniques we implement between the access point and the access controller. So the CAPWAP control tunnel can be encrypted using DTLS. DTLS stands for Datagram Transport Layer Security, because the information exchange or the control information exchange between the access point and the controller is based on UDP. So we have to use DTLS, the Datagram based version of Transport Layer Security, or TLS. So CAPWAP is the protocol. As I said earlier, it stands for Control and Provisioning of Wireless LAN Access Points or Wireless Access Points. This is the protocol used between the APs and the access controllers. So DTLS encryption ensures that control messages delivered by the access controller are not eavesdropped. Obviously, if somebody tries to listen, or somebody tries to wiretap the communication between the access controller and the access point, that communication should be encrypted. So CAPWAP makes sure that that communication is encrypted. This communication can be encrypted either through using pre-shared keys, PSK, or using certificate authentication, but generally PSK is good enough. We use pre-shared keys. And in case of Huawei access point and Huawei Agile controller or Huawei wireless controller, the default key is Huawei_SCCCWP, but you can always change it. One of the important functions that are performed here is that once different users connect to a network using the same access point, they become part of the same broadcast domain. It is very important that we are able to isolate that users from each other. Those users should not be allowed to communicate directly with each other using the ad hoc mode. So you see these stations, they are connected to this access point, but they should not be allowed to communicate directly with each other. So for that, what is done, or what CAPWAP does is, what is done in this infrastructure is that these users should not be allowed to see each other, or should not be allowed to detect each other's frames. So this is done, or we can say what is created is a virtual access point. The concept is that all the stations or all the clients are connected to a virtual access point, and virtual access points are isolated from each other, or the clients of the virtual access point are isolated from each other. This is an important function of CAPWAP protocol, or this is an important function of implementing security at the CAPWAP level. This isolation can either be on the virtual access point level, or it could also be based on the user group basis. which means that certain groups of users could be isolated from each other and they cannot communicate with each other based on their group membership. So we can either have that users in the same group cannot communicate with each other or can communicate with each other. Users between different groups cannot communicate with each other. So we could have an inter-group user isolation, we could have an intra-group user isolation, or we could have a combination of inter-group and intra-group user isolation. So all these possibilities are there, that we can either have a virtual access point based isolation, or we could have a group based user isolation. And then once the isolation has been done, then we could also authorize the users based on the user groups that they have. Whenever the users are connecting to the infrastructure, they are going to go to the Radius server, they are going to go through the access controller to the Radius server, and there the groups are going to determine that what resources they can access and what resources they cannot access. This is what we call the user authorization, and this information all is carried by the CAPWAP protocol from the access point to the access controller, and then from the access controller onwards to the Radius server. So that is beyond the scope of CAPWAP, but that is the purpose of carrying the information, so that it can be taken to the Radius server or the Active Directory server. So these were some of the basic, very fundamental concepts of CAPWAP. And finally, we are going to look at 2 slides about how you design the wireless networks. So this is a typical design of a small to medium-sized wireless infrastructure. The major difference would be that you would be implementing WPA or WPA2 with PSK, pre-shared key authentication. However, in case of large enterprises, you would be implementing the same using EAP authentication. You would be using EAP authentication, and then you would be isolating the users in different domains as well. So this is a basic understanding or basic concept of how you would construct your wireless infrastructure. This is just an introduction. However, you need much more while you're planning your wireless infrastructure. So this is all, my friends. Let's have I'm going a little fast because we are already short on time. You have to get your free vouchers as well. We're all waiting for the lottery. So let's just take a look at the quiz. So the first question is, which devices can be identified using rogue device identification? Rogue AP, rogue client, rogue access point, rogue client, ad hoc terminal, and wireless bridge. So which one of these, one or more of these options do you think are correct? ACD, Farhana is saying ACD, Amir says AD, Tomescu says all of them, all of them, all of them, all of them, all, A, B, C, D. Good. Yeah, that's correct. All of them. When you're using wireless IDS or IPS and you want to identify or you want to know about a rogue device, you can detect any of these rogue devices, whether it's a rogue AP or a rogue client or an ad hoc terminal or a wireless bridge. You can detect them using an access point which is acting as a monitoring device, monitoring access point, and then you can pass on that information to the controller, and then the controller can take appropriate action against any of these devices. So yes, the correct answer is all of them, or A, B, C, and D. Okay, the second question. Among the following authentication modes, Dash do not need authentication servers, Dash has the highest security, Dash support user group based authorization management. So first of all, let's take a look at the first blank. Among the following authentication modes, Dash do not need authentication. There are more than one. Let me give you a hint. Because of do, this means there are more than one. There is a possibility that we do not need authentication. A, B, D, A, B, C, D. So we need more than one, at least two. AB, ABD, BC. Yeah, Dimitri is correct. It's A and B. If you remember, we could have no authentication in web, and even in WPA or WPA2 with PSK authentication, we can have no authentication. Because if you remember, we discussed about the wireless mesh mode. In that case, we might not need an authentication. Or if we have a wireless distributed infrastructure, in that case, we might not have any authentication, or we might not need any authentication. So A and B are correct. And which one of them has the highest security? Which one has the highest security out of all these? So now this blank, the second blank. Which of these 4 options has got the highest security? Just one. You just need one. We have a has here. So grammatically, this has to be 1. So most of you are choosing either B or C. Yes, C is correct. Yes, C is correct. Because pre-shared is still easier to compromise. EAP is dynamic key exchange. So EAP authentication is the most difficult to break or is the most secure. So the correct answer is C. So we have A and B here, and we have C here. Okay, now the final one. Dash support user group based authorization management. This is probably a little tricky because towards the end we were a little quick because we were short on time. So I'll just tell you this one. C and D. With C and D, with EAP based authentication and with MAC address authentication, you can have support or isolate users based on their groups. Okay, so let's finish this. Let's wind this up, and now Stefan can go ahead and do the lottery. So thanks a lot. Thanks everyone.